Hello everyone and welcome to Helix Cloud Games. My name is Richie and this is CloudQuest, a cloud gaming show where we take a deep dive into one particular topic. This week we're talking about that infamous Nvidia GeForce Now leak from about a year ago. And joining me on this quest is none other than Mr. Chris.
Happy anniversary, Nvidia GeForce Now leak.
Happy anniversary. But before we get into it, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and hit that bell icon for notifications when all of our great shows go live, such as the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Every single Monday we bring you the Stadia news on YouTube and on podcast services. Every single Tuesday we bring you Talking the PS, where we break down all the PlayStation news, also on YouTube and podcast services. Every Thursday we have a live stream and whatever else we decide to throw at you. So Chris, roughly a year ago, I think it's probably a little over a year at this point, there was an infamous leak from a data mine of the GeForce Now PC app.
Yes.
And this leak promised a lot of things that at the time hadn't been released. So what I wanted to do for this episode of CloudQuest is just kind of go back to that leak, look at some of the highlights that were like kind of predicted and just see what has actually come to pass.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a crazy one that this is arguably the biggest leak in video game history by the fact we got a literal list of games that either didn't exist or weren't announced yet, that the industry knew nothing of. And initially it seemed crazy with some of the titles that we've got on the list, but then as time has passed by, as the months have ticked over, and some games were announced, more and more became reality, especially some of the PlayStation to PC ports, which is kind of like, no, why would PlayStation do that? And then
straight
as
up,
the months,
that was a thing. Like
let's take
one straight off the top of the list. God of War was leaked to, like, why God of War to come to GeForce Now. At the time of recording, I don't believe God of War is on GeForce Now, but you can buy it on PC.
Yeah,
that
I don't
was,
think it was
a year ago. That was just not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know if the list was explicitly like coming to GeForce Now. I think it's just Nvidia and whatever marketing programs, placeholder stuff they have behind the scenes. This just kind of basically anything happening in the industry just got filtered onto some kind of list document.
Yeah, apparently there's about 18,000 games that were on the list of the actual leak. So it was largely suspected this would be kind of placeholder for games that potentially could come to GeForce Now, that kind of thing. But if there was no hope, I think there was a lot of people thinking, if there's no hope of this game coming to GeForce Now, why would it ever be on the list?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Conversations need to be happening, don't they?
Yeah. So like a PlayStation exclusive such as God of War, like, logical thought at the time, like a year ago, was, well, that's Sony don't mess around with PC. They're not going to bring that up. They're not going to bring that over, and now you can buy it on Steam.
So the top selling PlayStation port as well. It's beat out Days Gone. Spider-Man, I think, is not.
Then
doing
words
as
you just
well.
said, the top selling PlayStation port to PC again a year ago
in terms of sales. Yeah, they've turned some great numbers off the back of that one. And it's just kind of PlayStation, we know since then, have kind of set this precedence that actually all the titles will come across to PC. We're seeing it with Spider-Man, the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, which was also in this leak, which hasn't actually had a release yet, amongst other things. So, yeah, we'll see. I have no false promises that we will see the entire kind of AAA PlayStation library eventually make its way to PC, especially with the recent news that they look like they're possibly prepping for their own launcher.
Yeah, me and Rob talked about this on Talking the PS a few weeks ago. But with Uncharted Legacy of Thieves, this is absolutely 100% confirmed on Sony's own website, and the store entry is there on Steam. Yeah. So that's coming. So,
which is crazy, right? And again, when this list dropped, and everyone was like, "No, PlayStation don't mess around with PC," and then again, every 4 months, we get news that there's something new coming, and it's like, oh, actually, yeah. So, like, the other ones on this list, we've got Horizon Forbidden West. Would have seemed crazy at the time of this list going live, but now we have Spider-Man, God of War, and Uncharted on the horizon. Like, yeah, why wouldn't we see Horizon and
Zero
Ratchet
Dawn?
and Clank?
Was Zero Dawn the first to come over?
Yeah, it was one of the first ones to go live, yeah.
Yeah. And we know it seems like Sony still want to have a kind of a bit of a lag between the PlayStation and the PC release.
Yeah.
Which
you want that
I think is to encourage people to buy it. Yeah, so Horizon Forbidden West was this year. I would maybe next year, maybe February next year. That's kind of
the big success of it all, isn't it? Is that you've got God of War and PS4, PS5. It must be saturated now in terms of how many sales they can squeeze out of that particular game, and it's gone on to the PlayStation Plus library. So everyone who's got PlayStation Plus has it for free anyway.
On the run up to Ragnarok as well,
and that's it. Yeah, it utilizes this perfect marketing window where you put it out on a PC a few months ahead of time. Everybody talks about it again. It gets this sudden boom. You've got all the modders getting their hands on it and putting Homer Simpson and Ned Flanders into it and such. You get Stan Lee playing as Spider-Man. And then leading up to, Ragnarok or Spider-Man 2, you've got all this free hype, essentially, and sales and money, like actual income, just from porting the game to PC. And it's great to see.
I bet part of Sony's calculus in this is, we bring out God of War to PC on the run-up to Ragnarok, because it's not going to sell any critically more. They'll see a spike again on PlayStation, I imagine, on the run up. But if we bring it to PC, it's an entire new audience who get to jump into this game and go, wow, this is one of the greatest games of all time. The next one's around the corner. Oh, it will be PS5 only. Maybe I should pick up a PS5. You can see how they might be thinking about that. So they get the extra sales of God of War now from that spike on PC and potentially bring some more people over to PS5. Then you got them into the ecosystem. Once you have the box under the TV, you're going to want to buy games for it, because otherwise you don't want to spend like £500 to play one game.
Yeah, completely. In regards to units as well, so as of May this year, May 2022, Sony Interactive CEO Jim Ryan held a slideshow focused on...
His holiday snaps.
His holiday photos, revealing the sales of the PC versions up until that date. Horizon Zero Dawn has sold 2.3 million on PC. In about a year and a half, while God of War 2018 has sold 971,000 units on PC in just 2.5 months. Days Gone has sold 852,000 on PC in about 10 months as of March 2022. So, like, God of War after just a few months is almost coming up on 1 million additional sales. And bear in mind, when these things go on PC, they come out at full price. Again, they're not, even though they're older titles, they're not losing any money.
Days Gone's done well there, actually, because that was kind of one of the Sony exclusives that kind of didn't land as hard during that period of where they were just bringing, seemed like every few months he's another absolute game-changing Sony exclusive.
Which, again, it's just a second wind. I loved Days Gone. It was great. I'm gutted to see that's not getting a sequel. Although it's getting a movie, which is weird. Maybe we'll see a movie leaks that'll tell us about that. But in a nutshell, PlayStation, these all have came true so far. The only kind of outlier that hasn't came true, which seemed the craziest, was Helldivers 2. Was this in there? Because that game hasn't actually been announced. Like, we knew about Gran Turismo being inevitability. We knew about Returnal, and Sackboy was already out, Uncharted was already out. But Helldivers 2, up until this last week, Richie, or I guess at the time of recording this last week, for listeners and viewers on free feeds, it's about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Helldivers 2 had some footage actually leak over on Twitter, about 10-15 seconds of it, and it was immediately pulled down due to a copyright restriction, which kind of lends credence to the fact that it is real, because it's been brought down for copyright infringement. I loved the first Helldivers game. I didn't really think it would ever see a sequel, and yet here we are, apparently, for PS5. So such an obscure game that hadn't been announced just lends itself to this GFN list that, hey, they got another one right. So Helldivers 2, no doubt, possibly coming by the end of this year. Yeah,
it's like completely, like, this is one that I think no one was, as you mentioned, no one was expecting, wasn't revealed, and technically, formally hasn't been revealed yet at the time of recording.
Exactly. You know, with Helldivers 2, what I could actually see, I could see this being the first PlayStation game to come out with PC and PS5 release at the same time with crossplay.
That would be a bit of an experiment for them, but I don't think Helldivers is one of the strongest IPs they have, so they might be more willing to try it.
Exactly, that's what I think. It's in that kind of like middle tier where it looks great, it plays great, but it needs kind of the player base to form your 4-man squad up. And I don't think it would piss enough of the kind of hardcore fan. You know, the ones who get angry that, oh, why is Horizon going on a PC? I have a PlayStation, that shouldn't be allowed. All those kind of weird people out there.
I don't get that, because like, completely. You can still play it.
Yeah, it doesn't detract from you enjoying it on your PlayStation, so it just means someone who has a PC. Either way, yeah, we could go down that. I think Helldivers 2 is that kind of smaller entry that it actually wouldn't ruffle enough feathers, but it would be great for the actual game itself to have that cross-platform PC and PS4, PS5 interface. So, yeah, watch the space. I think we'll know about Helldivers by the end of the year, so not too long left.
Yeah, I mean, there's other things that I think are yet to come, like Demon Souls is on the list. Ghost of Tsushima, I think, is confirmed to be coming to PC, but it's not over yet. You've mentioned Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, Sackboy, not yet confirmed to come, but again, I can see these coming. The experiment, the fact that Sony have updated their website to add a PC section for PlayStation, and there's room they've got a PS Plus app now on PC. There's rumours that they're making like a full PlayStation app for PC. It feels like potentially even a storefront, maybe even full on PSN, so you can get your trophies and stuff popping on PC. It feels like they've committed to going in that direction.
Yeah, and then weirdly enough, poor GeForce Now probably isn't needed. Or that partnership isn't needed if you've got your own outlet for them. It
depends, because one of the advantages of GeForce Now is because it is more of a utility rather than an actual storefront, a dedicated platform itself. If, for example, God of War Ragnarok was to come, it's PS5 exclusive, you get that on PC, you could potentially use GeForce Now to play that in the cloud, where we know at the moment Sony's stance is PS5 games won't come to the cloud.
That's true.
So it's kind of
like a stopgap.
Yeah, a way of kind of bridging the gap. So if you want to play this game in the cloud, you can use GeForce Now.
Yeah, definitely. Where do you want to look at on this list next? Because as you said, there was hundreds of games.
Yeah, I want to say loosely staying with PlayStation for thematic reasons. Let's go into the Square Enix block. Because on the dock we've got pulled, I've actually got them split by publisher. Final Fantasy VII Remake is out on PC. That was a PlayStation exclusive before it came over. Final Fantasy IX was on there as a potential remake.
Which ones have we got so far? Which one's which is it 7 that's getting remade into 3 parts?
Yes, 7. Right. We've already had 7. Integrate was kind of the PS5 upgrade / extra content. They've got Rebirth is part 2 of Final Fantasy VII. So Final Fantasy IX, this is the game that at the point of recording, a remake of this game has not been announced.
Interesting. But there's also, we should caveat this with, so at the time this show goes live at the beginning of September, we have a couple of kind of games industry showcases, so there is rumoured to be a PlayStation showcase. So if this show went live several days after a big PlayStation showcase, where we know Square Enix partner quite well with PlayStation on a lot of exclusives, especially Final Fantasy, this could have been revealed. Alongside, I think we've got a Ubisoft Forward, possibly the same day this show goes live, Richie, on the 9th. And there's also a Disney showcase on the 9th at D23. So
no Ubisoft games on the list. But I think that's largely because it's Ubisoft and the expectation is that these games will come to the cloud, and this is very much in the bridge list I'm working off.
Well, Ubi also have their own Ubi Connect, so I don't think they're player-friendly with GeForce Now at all.
I should have just said this at the front of the show. We're recording this on the 29th of August. So, but it's not coming out for 2 weeks, so things may change in that time. Just so people have that context. I don't think we'll see Final Fantasy IX remake anytime soon because they're still working on the 7 remake and the Final Fantasy 16 to come as well. Definitely. So to announce another Final Fantasy remake in the works, if it was I could see a remaster or something maybe, but for a full remake when they've already working their way through one remake and they've got the next game in the series going, and then there's Final Fantasy 14 which seems to go from strength to strength. Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of Final Fantasy going on there. A
lot of players to spin.
Yeah, it's probably just get 7 done before you work on 9.
Yeah, we got a couple of things that obviously got reveals. A big one kind of stapling that this list is genuine was Kingdom Hearts 4, because we knew Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, and I do honestly feel a lot of people thought, because the game went through such a long development cycle and Kingdom Hearts is what it is, we thought maybe Disney might have stepped away from Kingdom Hearts a little bit and wanting to bring it all in-house like the Marvel and the Star Wars stuff. And yeah, we got Kingdom Hearts 4, kind of a low-key reveal in April time, and it's one of those titles you see Kingdom Hearts 4 and you think, are they really going to do that though? And then it had its reveal, it's a real thing, and it again just adds to the credence of the list that it's true to its name. And amongst all some like smaller entries as well.
Yeah, we've got some other games small entries that I don't think I actually heard of before. There was a new strategy game from Square Enix listed. There's a game now being announced called the Dialfield Chronicle. Mm-hmm. I don't know any. I'm going to be honest. Don't know anything about the game. And the amount of times I've looked at Dialfield and thought, is that not a B? He's like, I had to Google it several times.
Bioshock. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, Tactics Ogre got a remaster. Tactics Ogre Reborn. That was revealed in the leak and has come true.
Nice.
Tomb Raider had the Definitive Survivor trilogy. That was again leaked. Yeah. And actually on GeForce Now.
Yeah, it's interesting to see some of these names that were just kind of like generic placeholders, like insert new strategy game, insert tactics
unannounced
remaster,
card game 2.
Yeah, unannounced card game, and then we got the announcement for Voice of Cards, The Forsaken Maiden. So stuff that seems so generic placeholder, it came true still. So we might not have knew what it was as the leak, and then it's there, isn't it? So yeah, Square Enix again pulling out some bigger entries. So.
Now, one I think probably got a lot of people excited is not a Square Enix one. It's from Take-Two, Bioshock 2022. I think this is where we keep coming to when every time it comes to like a major press conference, it feels like we're ready for a new Bioshock. Yeah. I wonder if subconsciously we're going back to the GFN league and go, Bioshock is meant to be a game this year. At this point, I don't think we're getting it this year, but it might be next year.
I mean, there's still chance, Again, at the time of recording, the Gamescom opening night, Gamescom's just wrapped up this weekend, and Bioshock, or 2K more importantly, were tweeting out loads of kind of like Bioshock anniversary content, images of like Rapture and stuff, and I had a firm belief that we would have actually seen something at opening night live or across Gamescom, and yet we didn't. So again, that makes me think that if we do get a PlayStation conference before the end of the year, which I think we are in line for, to kind of showcase the next 2 years ahead for PS5, I think we could see Bioshock there. I really do.
I think we might hear about a new Bioshock game this year. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking at this point, though, I mean, we know like this list came out like literally 2021, so it's been a whole year, and we know how many games have been pushed back openly by getting delayed. Okay. How many do you think have been affected by delays that we haven't even heard of? I'm wondering, was the initial plan for a Bioshock game to come out later this year? Mm-hmm. But then, as it got before revealed, they've had to delay things because of COVID and whatnot. And now it's like, we looked at it, we're not even close. Let's not even pretend we're going to hit 2022. Let's maybe focus on late 2023 or even early 2024. And we can potentially, I'm thinking Game Awards. I do feel like Bioshock would be a very Jeff Keighley reveal. Yeah,
certainly. What I could see, because in the list as well, there was Bioshock 2022 and then Bioshock RTX Remaster, which is the ray tracing version. I think that might be the Bioshock trilogy, but like a next-gen version, so like PS5, Series X. That'll drop this year with a tease for the Bioshock 4 entry, whatever that is, kind of like announcing it. So big announcement, new games coming in the future, maybe 2023, 2024, but then available this summer or next summer or soon, basically, will be the trilogy remastered for next gen.
I think you're absolutely right. I think you're looking like a PS5, Xbox Series X port of the Bioshock trilogy with remaster, with ray tracing.
Yeah. More big daddies.
More clear big daddies, better light trace.
Better rendered.
Actually, I do think Bioshock with a quite dingy and like when you're traveling through that world and underground with the light, the ray tracing on that could be absolutely phenomenal. Some games I think you look at like ray tracing goes, yes, it looks a bit better, but for the amount of screaming my PlayStation Zero right now, is it worth it? I think Bioshock would be, especially a game so atmospheric.
Yeah, indeed.
That could be big.
So, where I'd like to go next, Richie, is to keep this trainer rolling and to feed into my wider thought process and narrative, is Konami On the list was 2 reveals for Metal Gear Solid 2 HD and Metal Gear Solid 3 HD. And there's been rumblings pretty much every other month this year of Metal Gear Solid, a Sony trying to buy the IP, a Konami trying to shift off Metal Gear, Castlevania, like just get the route of the game for video games, basically. And then what this kind of leads me into thinking, this thought process of a PlayStation conference, is we're going to see these reveals, 2 and 3 remake, at the PlayStation conference. We're going to see the Bioshock stuff. Just looking at the list from taking a step back, it looks like there's some big announcements that are still not became true on the list that would be perfectly viable to tick off in a showcase. So if at the end of this year we have a showcase, would you see Metal Gear Solid Remake at a PlayStation event? 100%. What about Bioshock reveal? Yes. And it's just the little gaps left on this list that we don't know about yet. Too much of the list is true to not make these things come to life. And I think if we have one big blowout event before the end of the year, this could fill in a few of these final boxes in particular. And I definitely think PlayStation are doing something with Konami around Metal Gear. It's too big of an IP to just be left on the table.
I think it's a complicated one, because if Konami don't really want to push forward with making games too much anymore, they'll look at the IP of Metal Gear Solid and think that is a very lucrative thing, like IP for them. So it's probably the nature of the deal. Does Sony buy the IP, or do they lease the IP, or do they just... Is the deals like, okay, you can use this IP, however, it has to be... push it everywhere because Konami want to maximize sales for their share. There's complicated business discussions to have. The fact that the list is as HD, I've always found a bit... It's kind of a throwback to like the PS3 era, to be honest.
The old HD ones.
HD remaster, something you expect like a PS1 or PS2 game come to the PS3.
HD. Maybe it means something different.
I would be more expecting a Metal Gear, if they're going to do a remake rather than a remaster, which HD makes me think more remaster than remake, is start with Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, 1 being omitted does seem a bit odd. But
give it the Final Fantasy VII treatment, like the Resident Evil 2 treatment, where it's we're going to keep the core essence of the game, but we're going to basically take what this game we want it to be, but with a bit more modern sensibilities.
Indeed. And this is kind of the big outlier for Metal Gear, is that it's probably one of the last few franchises that hasn't had a next-gen facelift, almost. I feel like we've had nearly every other thing. We've got a Demon's Souls one. So yeah, give it to Bluepoint, or get Kojima Productions back involved. Help mend that bridge, whatever PlayStation need to do. And while you're at it, make a Demon's Souls Castlevania game.
Yeah, well, Bluepoint, the last game, you mentioned Demon's Souls, the last game Bluepoint were working on was Demon's Souls. That's 2 years ago now.
Yep, exactly. So
the timeline kind of fits if you're thinking, let's say a 4-year development cycle. So this will be 2 years in. Maybe now's the time to start talking later this year. Yeah.
So we should see.
I want that.
I know, and a lot of people do. That's why it's just printed money sat waiting to be used. And if PlayStation are willing to do the groundwork on behalf of Konami, and Konami just get a sweet little payout at the end of it, win-win. But it's on the list, Richie, and that's the thing. When you look at the list and how much of it came true, it's like it can't just be a rumor. It's too big of a name to just be a rumor scribbled down on a sheet of paper.
Metal Gear Solid's too big of an IP. I mean, I suppose no IP is too big for someone to just sit on and do nothing with, but it feels like it's too big of an IP. Someone will be making moves. It's like, hi, Konami, are you doing anything with that? Because we have ideas.
Yeah, it's even just accessibility. It's not available. You cannot play it on a PS4 or PS5 right now.
Yeah, even if it was just available... a port, just port it, have it get running at 1080p, 60 frames per second, and just stick it on modern platforms, or PS Plus through the cloud.
Well.
Even without HD remaster, people, I think they'd be cool games to come across.
Yeah. Picture it, Richie, then. This PlayStation event, one last thing, cuts to black, and then you just hear the... the music, the violins kick in and stuff, the beat, and then it's just fades into Snake doing whatever. You
could almost do a bait and switch at the PlayStation event, just kind of in the middle of the show. You go, oh yeah, Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 are getting going to be available on PlayStation Plus through the cloud. Everyone's like, yeah, that's not what I wanted, but okay. And then you get the reveal at the end of a remake of the first one. It's like, yes.
One.
That little tease.
That could be good. What have we got out that stand out on the list? I guess another one for me is Cities Skylines 2. And we know that Cities Skylines has been out for 7-8 years at this point. The Twitter account was just teasing some new DLC packs over the weekend, and I think that game is almost like ran its course. Like not saying that it's bad, but it's been around for so long.
It needs a refresh.
It merits a sequel now. It's done so well for the team over there, and I just kind of want to see a next gen version of City Skylines. But again, one that hasn't been announced. So these are always the standout ones on the list that we don't know about. So City Skylines 2. Paradox.
It's kind of interesting to look at the ones that were leaked here and then have come to pass, like Resident Evil 4 remake.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the ones that the big outliers that we haven't heard about that yet. Like there's Metro, apparently the next game. Well, it currently is Metro Next. Don't know what that's going to be. A Half-Life 2 remaster, which I think is very unlikely, considering I'm sure when I was researching this story, Valve have been pretty cool with like just fan-made remasters of Half-Life. So
we ain't getting 3 anytime soon.
I mean, that's it. It's like Valve seem to like to make 2 games, then stop.
Yeah.
Even if that means the story hasn't been fully told.
Yeah.
But at this point, I feel like they'd have to just remake Half-Life 1 again before they want to think about 3.
Mm-hmm. Another good one, I guess, is Injustice 3. Purely because we know NetherRealm kind of bounce back and forth between the franchises. So they go Mortal Kombat, Injustice, Mortal Kombat, Injustice. Guess what? We had Mortal Kombat. So in their cycle, we're probably about 2.5, 3 years out from Mortal Kombat. So Injustice, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that one announced some point soon from WB as well. Unless everything at WB's shit's hitting the fan like it is with HBO Discovery, all the stuff being cancelled and that. So hopefully it's not impacted.
This one actually had a tagline as well, Gods Will Fall, so it makes me think that it's probably not as far out as some of the others where it's just like, unannounced strategy game.
Well, Injustice 2 is called Gods Will Fall, isn't it?
I don't know.
Oh, was that not the tagline on the
Gods Among Us?
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Gods Will Fall, Gods Among Us. Injustice 2. On Steam. Just Injustice 2, it says. I could have sworn I've heard Gods Will Fall or Gods Among Us or something. Might be a movie tagline.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, like that came out 2017, so 5 years ago. So we are probably due like a kind of final entry in that series, and I know it sells well for them. It's reviewed very well. Fighting
games, I do think have fairly long legs on them because as long as they keep supporting them with new DLC characters, new cosmetics, that sort of thing, because they're more of a sport rather than just.
Yeah,
you play through a story.
Esports events, aren't there, as well? So they get an annual boost when, like, I can't think of the name comes around. What's the one Sony bought? Evo, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Well, talk about Evo. We got Tekken 8 was teased at Evo this year. That was on the list. So that's another tick.
Tick it off the list. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. Which, again, hearing the list a year ago, you would have thought, well, Space Marine 2 came out ages ago. Why would we see a sequel to such an old game? And even when we watched it, I think it was at the Game Awards, we were watching along thinking, what is this? It looks like Warhammer. It looks like Space Marine, but I couldn't place it. And then, out of nowhere, it was like, oh, it's Space Marine 2.
Yeah.
And it was like,
it's a sequel, yeah.
Because I remember playing the first one on PS3 way back in the day. If we look on Steam now, if I can get in quickly... the anniversary edition came out in 2011, so that's the anniversary edition. So already you're talking a decade plus. So to get a sequel to a game and then again have it on this Nvidia list of leaks, it's like, oh, what a crazy game! Of course they're not making a sequel to a 10-plus-year-old game, and then it's so obscure. That's what makes the list ring so true. That they've actually came true, like Helldivers, Warhammer 42 Space Marine, and what was the other one in there? That was like so crazy standout that we didn't expect.
I mean,
and then the PC PlayStation stuff is like, oh, okay, I guess the list is true.
It's kind of, you wouldn't expect it after this long for them to do a sequel to the game, but then you remember it's Embracer Group. And they've spent a lot of time and effort acquiring IP. So, yeah, they're going to make sequels to games that I've seen like dead in the water, like Time Splitters. We know there's a new game in the works.
Yeah.
I mean, on this list, it was a Time Splitters 2 remaster that was tagged. I think it's unlikely to be a remaster of number 2 now, because now they've announced they're working on a new game, but that may have been the initial idea.
I think initially, if I remember, they didn't have the full IP, and then they somehow acquired it, and then said they've built a brand new team from the ground up to work on Time Splitters. So I think it's just going to be a brand new project now, which kind of incorporates it. But again, yeah, it's other things. Crysis 4 is on the list from Crytek as well. That got revealed this past year, which who expected that? Everyone thought, oh, you've got a trilogy, you're done. And
the memes of will it run Crysis that can return soon.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. Any other final big ones on this list, Richie, that have kind of just added credence to the list being true, or that you were just surprised by?
I mean, Shin Megami Tensei 5 was revealed and it's released for the Switch. That's kind of so. Persona is a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei. So it's the same world sort of stuff. So that's out now. It's like XCOM 3, I think is worth mentioning because it's on the list, but Firaxis are currently working on Midnight Suns. So I would expect XCOM 3 maybe to be their next game. Yeah.
We don't know how far this list stretched. That's the thing. It's like this week could go well into 2025 for all we know.
Yeah. There was a Wreckfest sequel, but we've just had a Recreation announced at the THQ Nordic Showcase. They haven't formally said it's a sequel to Wreckfest, but it's a sequel.
It looks like it, everything.
It's like Wreckfest plus you can create your own stuff.
It's like a spin-off of Wreckfest.
Yeah.
It seems. And then the final one for me, just to add again a bit more gravitas to the list, was an untitled Respawn game, which I guess we kind of now know as the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order in Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, that's why I expect it could be something different.
It could be. We know the team has expanded massively since the success of Apex and Jedi. So I know they've been put on some other projects, but Jedi Survivor. Yeah, can't wait for it.
I'm putting that down as Jedi Survivor for now because in the last year since this list came out, we got the name.
Yeah, we'll have to maybe come back to this list in another year's time when it's all fully marked off green ticks and we're like, wow, shit, everything on the list was true. And hopefully we'll get another leak.
It's looking very likely, apart from a few things where I'm like, Halo, Half-Life 2 remaster, is that really going to happen? Mm-hmm. But there again, if it's a remaster, maybe. But again, I feel like if Valve will want to go seriously back into Half-Life, remake 1 and 2, while you're also working on 3. This time, we're going to tell the full story, we're going to do the trilogy, bang, bang, bang.
Exactly. So I guess in hindsight then, thank you, NVIDIA, for letting us know what was coming out.
Yeah, thank you for the guys who didn't mind this and got us all excited for the last year.
Give us another list. And I'm very intrigued to see if we do get that PlayStation conference because, a couple of announcements that maybe aren't ticked off just yet, I could see coming. Even I think on the list we didn't mention it, but a Batman Arkham Knight Ray Trace remaster, I could see it being like a nice little kind of stopgap between now and whatever Gotham Knights Suicide Squad is. Like, oh, you know what? Here's another game.
That's one why I genuinely was surprised when I found out that it doesn't already exist. Because WB
the collection,
and it's not on GeForce now either. Which again, I was surprised when it wasn't because it's on Steam. Mm-hmm. Well, not necessarily RTX remaster, but.
Yeah, good list of games there, and we knew about them over a year ago. So
I know.
Now we just have to look to the year ahead in the absolute dark and not knowing a clue.
Yeah.
But we'll come to review it, no doubt.
But that's all we have time for this week. If you've liked the video, hit that like button and consider becoming a member for as little as 99p. We can get early access to this very show and talking to the PS occasionally. If you've got an idea for a topic you want us to discuss, let us know in the comments of this video or in our Discord server. The link is in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. My name's been Richie.
My name's been Chris.
Quest completed.